Hello everybody, my name is Lavuna and welcome back to today's video titled The Quantum Mercy of Collapse. Quite the title there. I did want to preface this by saying that I am sick right now, so I'm going to do my best to cut out all of the, coughing or sneezing or anything like that during the recording. But my voice is just going to sound a little weird for this video today, but hey man, live and let live. So basically, today we're going to be talking about the vastness of options and how oftentimes that can leave us in a state of unknowing and inaction. Today we're going to talk about how oftentimes, young or old, we have this disillusion of action. As humans, we have so many ideas of what we are and what we could be, but since the abolition of traditionalist general workers, we are now all given the options in the world of who we are and what we can do with our lives. In small ways or large, our lives make an impact on the rest of the world. You could be an engineer and build homes and cityscapes. That's what you provide. You could be a fast food worker and provide sustenance to the rest of the world or your country or your town. Or you could be a scientist that changes the game for everyone. The point is that I found myself stuck in that illusion of choice. I want to be a million things. I have a number of ideas and passions that could make me good at a number of things, but the issue is choosing what is right for who I am. And that's what brings us to the curse of anything. So I'm currently 20, working a good job that pays handsomely, but this isn't my future, and I know that. I'm going to school and studying physics. I'm great at it, and I'm progressing very quickly in my realm, but I'm just not sure that this is my end-all be-all. I don't know that this is where I want to go. I could work in engineering. I'm very creative. I think outside the box. I love working with my hands and building things, so I could be good at a number of fields. I can write and speak very inspirationally. I could be a teacher. I have so much to teach the world about so many things. But yet, does that provide the future that I want? I could spend my years in a classroom inspiring the next generation of critical thinkers, philosophers, creators. But as badly as I want to inspire that in others, I have that same desire to inspire that in myself. So the choice in these types of situations can be temporal, sometimes for the future, sometimes for never. The issue with so many options is that you feel like you can do or be anything. But think of how expansive that line of thinking is. It's very broad and way too limitless. Living life without limitation is excellent, but most will get stuck in paralysis. The freedom that we experience feels free, but if it's free, why does it give so much anxiety? Why does it feel like you're suffocating? We are told that the world is our oyster, we can be or do anything, and yet, with so many choices, we fail to act in the end. Today, we're going to use the ideas of quantum physics and 20th century poetry to explain why your refusal to choose is actually killing you, and why the only way to survive is, well, to commit a murder. In modern physics, before a particle is observed, it exists in a state of superposition. It is in all states at once. It is here and there simultaneously. It not only gains property when observed. Right now, most of us, maybe even you, exist in a superposition. You could be a potential billionaire, potential psychologist, a potential teacher, potential father, but you are a potential failure. When you don't act, you save yourself from having to lose parts of yourself and not being everything you thought you are and want to be. It's safe not having to face yourself in the mirror to find out what your purpose is. It feels nice, but also so claustrophobic to be in superposition. As long as you don't act, you get to keep the fantasy of being everything, but there is a cost. A particle in superposition has no definite position. It has no reality. It is a ghost. So, here is your reality check. You are protecting your potential because you are terrified of reality. You want to stay a ghost because ghosts don't fail, but ghosts also don't live. Let's look to Sylvia Plath. She has this book, The Bell Jar, that I really love, and a quote from that is, I saw my life branching out before me, like a green fig tree in the story. From the tip of each and every branch, like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. One fig was a husband and a happy home and children. Another fig was a famous poet. Another fig was a brilliant professor. Another fig was E.G., the amazing editor. Another fig was Europe and Africa and South America. And another fig was Constant and Socrates. And another fig was an Olympic lady crew champion. And beyond and above all these figs were many more that I couldn't quite make out. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of this fig tree, starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind of which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but by choosing one meant losing all the rest. And as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle and go black, and one by one, they plopped to the ground at my feet. Now, after reading that, we oftentimes think that the largest tragedy is picking the wrong fig, right? One can easily deduce that from this excerpt. But the real tragedy is watching them all rot because you were too arrogant to just pick one. Physics tells us the state of the problem, and literature tells us the feeling of it. Now, which one is more important? That's up to you. You may believe, but Lavona, I want to keep my options open. In hindsight, nature disagrees with you. And the worst part about it is that one day it may be too late, and those figs have died and fallen at your feet. Let's look to a biological standpoint of synaptic pruning. By definition, synaptic pruning is the process of synapse elimination or weakening. The most active period of pruning occurs between early childhood and late 20s. During elimination of a synapse, the axon withdraws or dies off, and the dendrite decays and dies off. All summed up, you utilize the neurons that are beneficial and help promote your growth, and those left in the dust get pruned, making the ones remaining much stronger and able to grow. A fascinating thing about this process is that your body will naturally adapt to its environment in so many different ways. For instance, if the eyes are sewn shut in the critical period when pruning of the retina takes place, the lack of light input will cause the synaptic connections required for vision to die off, resulting in blindness. The body kills off what it doesn't use, and it does so without any input from you. When you're a baby, your brain has more connections than it does now. It's a mess of noise, but to become actualized and intelligent, your brain has to kill off what is utilized to make way for what is used the most. In simple ways, that could be your fine motor cortex, being used rather than an affinity to math. But you have to align with your body to help prune off your weakness to make way for your strength. Our growth is a process of elimination. You cannot build a structure without cutting away the stone. If you refuse to cut the stone, you remain a block. You remain nothing. The term puer artenus is Latin for eternal boy, first mentioned in Metamorphose, written by Roman poet Ovid. Swiss psychiatrist and psychologist Carl Jung rescued the mythological term and used it in the exploration of the psychology of eternal youth and creative child within every person. More or less, it is an archetype. As all the others, it has good and bad, can bring creativity and passion and beauty of childhood into adult life, or the inverse, destruct your self-realization and doom us both to unrealistic adolescent fantasies and experiencing life as a person. It becomes the provisional life. This is the guy who says, I'm just doing this for now, or I'm just dating her for now. He treats his actual life like a dress rehearsal for a real life that will start later. But the problem is that tomorrow is never guaranteed. There is no later in life. This is it. The rehearsal is the show, and you're missing your cue. You refuse to land because you don't want to stop flying or can't find a good spot to land. But by never landing, you never build anything for yourself. I like to think of this concept as an adolescent perspective. That is, leaving your future to come acting as this is the setting stage for everything else, or waiting for the right moment to act. I experienced this a lot growing up. acting as if I had all the time in the world to do whatever and be whomever, but also putting off my dreams until later, saying that when I'm an adult, I'll move to Russia, where I'm an adult now and years into it. I now tell myself I'll do that later, right, when I'm older. For now, I have to stay here and have to work at this job, but it's all for now. It's all for now. But when I keep that mentality, it takes me out of actual life, who I am, what I'm doing, and knowing that our realities are ours to create and destroy. I look to the reality I'm creating for myself now. Is this something I enjoy? Is this a life worthy of my desires? Not saying I'll do this or that later down the line. Am I really okay with doing what I'm doing now? It's funny to look back now and see myself make the same promises that 16-year-old me made. When I'm 20, I'll be living in Romania, enjoying a simple life, carefree from all this mess, and finally able to be my own man. And to some degree, I've developed that sense of my own man. But the other, thinking that my current pain is only there for a short amount of time. Whereas when you get older, you realize that pain follows. Everywhere that you go, it follows. If not this issue, then there will be another. There is no life without suffering. It's about learning to accept the pain that you do have at that moment and learning to live with it and still being the person that you want to be. I have this movie that I hold close to my heart, not necessarily for the action or drama portion, but the character building. There's a scene in the movie, and it's Passengers from 2016. But basically, it encapsulates a lot of what we're covering here today. It goes something like this. You're not where you want to be. You feel like you're supposed to be somewhere else. Jim responds with, "You said it." Bartender goes back, well, say you could snap your fingers and be wherever you want it to be. I bet you still feel this way, not in the right place. Point is, you can't get so hung up on where you'd rather be that you forget how to make the most of where you are. We can dream and believe for ourselves grandeur. Strive for those feelings, but never forget to make the most of where you are in this second. In doing so, don't block yourself from eradicating your own superposition, but narrow your gaze. Find a fig you're happy with, a spot to land you're satisfied with, and prune the parts that misalign you from this future. And finally, just live and let live. Now let's go back to the physics one last time. A particle in superposition, a wave, can pass through slits. It creates interference patterns. It is everywhere and nowhere. It has no mass, no solidity. It has no friction, and without friction, you can't move. You cannot climb. A ghost cannot leave footprints. By collapsing the wave function, by choosing the specific partner, the specific career, the specific town, you become solid. You gain mass, and suddenly life gets harder because now you have obstacles. But for the first time, you are actually in the world. You are no longer floating above it. I've told you before about the infinite bookshelf, the idea that you can organize infinite knowledge in infinite ways, but here's the dark side of that metaphor. You cannot read an infinite number of books. You can only read one at a time. If you stand in front of that shelf, terrified to pull a book down because you're afraid of missing out on the millions of others, you will die standing there. You will die unread. The mercy of the collapse is that it forces you to pull one book down. Maybe it's not the perfect book. Maybe it's not the best book, but it is a real book, and you are finally reading it. So here's my challenge to you. Stop living in your false reality, worshiping your potential, what could have been or can be. Potential is just energy that hasn't done any of the work yet. But imagine with me here that you're on your deathbed, surrounded by all of the versions of yourself that could have been if you had acted. In all of your potentials, which version of you would it hurt most to face and say, "I'm sorry"?